Wow. Now, I'm like that CEO. My ears are kind of perked up here. Let's just say for a second that I'm terrified, and I want to do something to help insulate myself against all this risk. What do I do? What are the first steps that I take? Especially when you say vendors who have who have a conflict of interest. Like, I, from everything I can tell, we swim in an ocean of vendors with a conflict of interest. So how in the world, in this ocean I'm swimming in, what's my life jacket?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the first step, right? And like in anything in life is you have to acknowledge that you have a problem, Lee, right? You have to pull your head out of the sand.
Step one.
Step
Okay.
one, pull your head out of the sand and recognize that yes, it is a tremendous undertaking, but it's not one that should be scary. It's one, again, full of both obligation and opportunity. So I've put together a number of checklists, and I think there are a lot of things that are consistent across those checklists. And first, have you identified who are your plan fiduciaries in writing? Right. So you're asking, like, what can you do to protect yourself? And I think that, I sort of listed those 5 principles off, and they seem sort of philosophical, but what do they mean in practice? Have you identified all of your plan fiduciaries in writing? Have you asked your vendors to either agree to or not, whether or not they hold a fiduciary obligation under their contract? And create a list of policies and procedures with respect to evaluation of conflict of interest. Disclose, for example, if you are a carrier and you're my carrier, please disclose if you have an ownership interest in any of the providers that you're paying on my behalf. I think what we've seen, and I use this example because I think it's really pertinent, carriers are purchasing providers, and the provider, I think Optum acquired like 10,000 physicians last year, if I'm remembering the stat correctly. In many of these cases, the carrier that you are paying to negotiate rates and pay claims on your behalf also owns the provider that they're paying, right? So if you think about the potential for conflict here, if you own the entity that you are responsible for negotiating with on behalf of your employers, where's your incentive to negotiate a lower price, right? So I don't know that we can necessarily as
Wow.
HR officers solve this dynamic that now exists in the market. Like, am I as an employer able to sort of disaggregate this and preclude all conflicts of interest? Probably not. But what I am able to do is get full visibility into the conflicts so that I can protect myself against it. Disclosure of conflicts of interest, transparency, sunshine is the best disinfectant. I think it gets you part of the way there. So a lot of written policies and procedures. You must have access to all of your healthcare claims data and your
Okay.
pharmacy data. Absolutely, bottom line. And there are several other things, sort of like tangible things. I think the C-suite can do and CHROs can do to take those principles and actually apply them in a really tangible way.
This is great. Are there a couple others that just come off
Sure.
the top of the head real quick?
Yeah, I didn't want to like bore you with just a rattling of lists, but
Well, yeah, a couple other items, just lightning round me real quick, and then we'll go to
yeah.
the next topic.
So when you're talking about the prudence of your healthcare decisions, so you need a framework for evaluating the prudent purchasing. So another great example, and I could tell a personal anecdote. When I first started working for the state, and one of my first projects was running a TPA RFP. We had a large budget hole to fill. This is PBM and TPA reprocurement was part of the way we got there. And I was told that one of the ways, or the primary way we evaluated our TPA partner, was through a discount analysis. And I told our consultant, well, a discount off of what? Like a discount, like how do I know the price? because I would, remember I was somewhat new to this, and they said, "Oh, no,
Sure.
no, we don't know the price. We just know the discount." And I was just like mind blown that we could be spending as a state $5 billion, and that's with a B, on healthcare claims through a system with which we had no insight to the price and no contractual guarantees over the price. So after much convincing, we changed the model to do a unit cost analysis with a unit cost guarantee year over year to, ensure that our unit costs weren't going up.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, and then I guess, the last was not last. There are more, but another significant one was the procurement of our PBM partner, pharmacy benefit manager. We were never really, we weren't improving as much as we knew we could financially in our standard bidding process. And so again, this is sort of the application of that prudent purchasing standard or
Right.
reasonableness of plan expenses. We engaged in a creative procurement methodology called a reverse auction, which really unleashes market forces against, the big PBMs for us, because they were the ones that could handle the business, the size of the business. And they bid on
Right.
each other, and we were able to unmask pricing so that they could go around another round and really, lower prices again to get more aggressive to win the state's business. And we went 3 rounds, ultimately saving, over $2 billion over the course of that 5-year
Wow.
contract term. So,
Wow.
you can really effectuate major change with putting some of these principles into practice.